Let him do his quick count.
I have no idea how counts work. So we have an agronomist here, Connor, and since we had a lot of people asking questions and a great response on our video of Nick showing the cornfield that was also with alfalfa planted in it, we had him come out and we can talk a little more details on that since I know nothing and he's an agronomist. So we had someone ask mind sharing herbicide program regimen on this field. If you want to explain the field a little bit.
So the alfalfa was planted a couple days earlier than the corn. Both are Roundup ready. The total pesticide application was insecticide, fungicide, and then Roundup. So both of them are glyphosate tolerance, so there was a Roundup application. The fungicide was applied mostly because the humidity and the moisture in the lower canopy, without taking that crop of alfalfa, was going to leave the residue, all that green growth of alfalfa, very vulnerable. So we wanted to make sure that we took as good a care of it as we could with the limited sunlight. So all we did was use azoxystrobin, think like Approach A-frame, a product like that. So it was just a relatively cheap fungicide. It was knockoff Arctic was the insecticide. So because nothing was going to get cut, if there was some leaf hoppers or some weevils out here, we wanted to make sure that we did as best as we could in the one application, and then glyphosate. Things that we could have considered would have been encapsulated acetochlor to keep the water hemp away. However, when you're spraying encapsulated acetochlor, you got to be careful of your label rate. The product that you use, not everything's labeled for alfalfa and corn. And then the timing. So the alfalfa's got to be a lot shorter. But all we did on this specific instance was Roundup, azoxystrobin, and then generic Arctic to cover all the bases and keep the alfalfa as best shape as we could underneath the corn canopy. So a question was, when first crop alfalfa comes around next year, what is the corn stalks going to do to our feed value the next year? So by putting in the alfalfa with corn, right, we're trying to gain something, we're going to have to give up something. The feed quality in that first cutting next year is going to be a little contingent and vulnerable on some of the corn stalks that are out here. That was just kind of a known risk. Some are going to break down, not all of them. So that is going to inevitably get put into the feed, and we're going to mitigate that on the backside. But we're trying to basically gain time. What we're giving up is a little bit of feed quality in that first cutting. Some folks, when they do two 30-inch rows, skip a row, so then you have 30-inch row, 60-inch row, back to 30s. When it comes to harvesting, going to be able to drive over half the amount of field. We're going to increase the population, so instead of in the row being like 30,000, it would be in the row would be around 40,000 to maintain the yield. Probably have to look closer to 45,000, but then that gap is going to let more sunlight in the alfalfa. It's going to look a little weird, but once again, giving up something to try to gain something on the other side.
And we can be more precise on where we put in our fertilizer needs too, you know, because here we broadcasted, actually we had to broadcast the planting tool, and then we broadcasted urea, and maybe we can look at possibly using a spiker with liquid nitrogen for that second pass, and using a planter, you know, with fertilizer on already, obviously, just plugging those on it. I got a 4-row, I think that looked pretty nice on.
A quick thing that we did do when we came out here in between the rows, so somebody had mentioned, what do you do right around the corn rows where there is some alfalfa kill? In between the rows, we're getting upper 40s, low 50s for stem counts. So they're pretty fine stems right now, right? But when your optimum alfalfa stand, University of Wisconsin, is looking for over 55 stems, we are just under that, somewhere between a 45 to 50 average. So overall, a pretty solid stand, not an exceptional stand, but a pretty solid stand of alfalfa.
Yeah. Yeah.
What were you doing?
I was just throwing the quick stock. He was talking and I was losing. He was losing because I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot.
Well,
you got a lot of good information, buddy.
Well, people are asking questions. And
that's why I
really
had him do.
This is why he's here.
That's why I had him do the herbicide, weed control, and all the other questions.
Answer this question: would you do it again?
Well, if we do 60-inch rows, I'd probably use my planter, because you know the planting didn't work with the weather the way we wanted to. There was about hay got planted, and it took like, what was it, 3-4 days before the planter got.
It was almost 5 or 6 because the alfalfa was already coming up. I mean, it was like
we got a pounding fucking rain.
Yeah. which didn't help with the row cleaners. If it was dry soil, I think the corn would have snuck into the stand better, but being wet, it did.
Yeah,
it didn't
so
help.
corn should have gone in first. It all should have just gone in the same.
Oh yeah, did you tell, because Pete, that was another question. What went in first and how are you supposed to plant the two?
Well, ideally, I think we do it around the same time. Maybe put the corn in a day or two.
I would definitely say the corn in first, because when you go through with the row units, especially with a brilliant seeder, but basically you want to like you're tucking it into bed. If you put the corn deeper in the soil and the alfalfa on top, now we don't touch the corn seed or the shoot.
Yeah.
Where the alfalfa went in, and then we drove the corn through that stand, which disturbed. Hence why we kind of have that 4-inch gap around the corn row. If you put the corn seed in first and you kind of work from the bottom up, we don't disturb as much. So I think in the future, that should still be the goal.
And then, well, yeah, but should we do a day difference, 2 days difference? Or
Yeah, that was another thing. At the same time, same day.
I would say no greater than 3 days. If it was the same day, that'd be fine. But you want to get it before that corn shoot is coming up. So if the corn's germinated, that's fine. But you'd hate to be running over the coleoptile of the corn in the top 1/4 inch there.
And then bend her over. And
you don't bend her over.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could do it the same day. Within 3 days would be preferred.
So then how are we gonna, you talked about using your growth, growth prohibitor on the alfalfa.
Right.
But on 60-inch rows now, what are your thoughts on that?
So the technical best way to do it, meaning the biggest pain in the ass way to do it, would be drop nozzles underneath the corn. Since that's gonna be such a pain in the butt, right? Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I do question. I'd have to read the label to exactly what that would look like being sprayed over top of corn. Yeah. But that's such a gamble where we might stunt the corn.
Yeah.
We might. I'd have to read the label on what it actually says about corn. That product typically is mostly used in small grains.
Yeah.
So I don't have a ton of experience outside of like winter wheat.
Yeah.
To answer that for sure.
Well.
But I mean, in theory, if it's on label and we just shrunk everything, maybe if we planted a taller variety, maybe even planting just I would say just plant. I don't know. We'd have to look into it, I guess.
So what are you expecting in spring?
Probably just seed a little bit more into it and not a hell of a lot more, and just kind of take my first crop and see how she goes from there. I think we'll be all right. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if do you think you would solid seed the whole thing, or do you think you would just spot plant?
Probably just
because you look at like that hill slope there. That's a really, in the springtime, that's gonna fill in nice. Like you ain't gonna hardly notice.
Just a couple spots on the headlands.
Yeah,
that's about it. Otherwise, I think it's gonna be fine. We'll see in the springtime.
Laughing at me because I don't know anything about crops, and he was counting whatever.
Go over there where we just.
So I was gonna have him do it and explain it for you all because I didn't know what it was or how it was done. Call when you count them, and what does it do?
So, I guess the technical phrase, right, is alfalfa stand evaluation. When you're evaluating an alfalfa stand, there's a few things that you look for. The old school way of doing it was plants per square foot. So you would count the alfalfa crowns in a square foot, and the age of the stand depended on how many plants you needed to have a successful stand. Currently, we do stems per square foot. So stems per square foot is a little bit more modern and indicative to the success of a stand, because typically older stand, bigger crown, throws more stems. So it takes out the whole age concept, and you just comes down to stems per square foot. The other thing you have to evaluate is the crown. So when you take out that alfalfa root, you want to cut it in half and look for rots, mush. You want it to be white. That taproot white. A lot of turgor pressure, which is basically water and healthy root. Typically use an alfalfa ring, right, which is an exact square foot. I'm just going to use my feet here to make a little L. My feet are about 12 inches. But so you would count everything inside of this square foot here. The goal is to have over 55 stems. That is a perfect stand. Anything under, I believe, anything under 35 stems, you want to terminate. And then if you're in that 40 to 55, that's where we have to think about maybe terminating after one more year. Just try to get it through one more year. Sometimes people will interseed like a metal fescue into that to give that stand a bump. If it's within a seeding year, sometimes you have enough time to seed back more alfalfa. Let's see if we can find a good one to dig up.
Okay.
Just So here we have two different alfalfa plants. If we look at this one here, and we cut it open, and you look at the root. Okay, so outside of that mud I just wiped there, everything is white, very firm. You don't see any rots, any molds coming in from the sides, so that's a sign of a really healthy crown. So going into winter, the odds of this plant surviving and producing a good crop next spring is very likely.